Welcome to Gracefully Imperfect, a podcast for the all-encompassing Black man, the professional, the entrepreneur, the student, the family man, the father, and the everyday survivor. I'm your host, Semantic 7. And on this journey together, we will discuss all things related to fatherhood and parenting, morality and ethics, striving to become mentally healthy, our role within our households and our family, health and fitness, and I dare not to forget, there will be a lot of sharing of our personal developmental stories that have shaped us to who we are today. So let's go on this journey together and center our consciousness, relax our mind, off we go to the depths below. Peace, love, blessings, and abundance to all of you. I'm so ecstatic to be on this platform again and to be able to continue this odyssey of embracing our imperfection and loving ourselves and treating ourselves with dignity, respect, and continuously looking ourselves in the mirror and saying it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay that I don't get everything right. And it's okay that my destiny to become a better person, to improve upon the resources and the skills and my abilities, I'm not going to always know exactly where that journey lies or where it's going to go. So I thank you all for tuning back in. It's been a tumultuous few months. The last time that I recorded and broadcasted a episode was back in October, before the birth of my third child. We brought in a new prince into this world, my wife and I. First off, I want to just say how grateful I am to the ancestors, to the Creator, to my queen for blessing me with the highest gift that any human can receive. My son is everything. My son is love. My son is peace. My son is royalty. My son is my treasure. And so he came into this world October 31st. He's 4 months now. And I've been spending these last 4 months with my wife, really fine-tuning our parenting, figuring out the best way to go about working together collaboratively as a team and as a partnership with the house, with both of us having jobs and having 3 royal children that needs our tender love and care and our attention. And so I didn't think that it was in the best interest of the podcast or this gracefully imperfect movement if I didn't take some time away to really ensure that the home front was copacetic. And I think that was the best decision that I made, because I allowed myself to fully immerse into experiencing life. And I was not caught up in what the topic of the day was going to be and what was a quote of the day was going to be. I got to live life fully and abundantly. And now I feel more equipped to be able to draw from those experiences to help support all of you, my Black survivors, everyday survivors, to help you however that resonates within your personal and your communal and your family context. And so I just want to say once again, I had another baby, another prince, and that it's been an awakening, but it's been a blessing. But we're back at it. And I have so much that I want to share. And I have so much that I want to reveal to you during these times of fine-tuning and reflection and learning and relearning and unlearning and falling down and getting back up. I want to share it all. But I'll make sure that I dose it right. This podcast, I do not take this for granted. I set this up last year because I wanted to touch people, touch spirits. I wanted to share stories. I wanted to share insights, share knowledge. I wanted to create a community of people who are unafraid and unapologetic about who they wanted to be and who they wanted to become and who they wanted to see themselves within the context of this world. So here we are. I really want to talk about something that I've been going through, and I know that it's reflective off of a lot of Black experiences, Black life experiences, because we typically get discriminated, harassed, ridiculed, gaslighted, treated unfairly, treated with inequity in professional settings, academic settings, workforce, in our neighborhoods, historically and current. I recently just got out the military, y'all. March 1st, 2023 marks 13 years of military service. I received an honorable discharge on the basis of conscientious objection as a conscientious objector. And I no longer have that looming shadow of misery hanging over me anymore, now that I'm no longer attached or affiliated to that institution, that war machine. But there's something about that I thought that rather than going into the full anecdotal story about this, I wanted to highlight something very specific that is relevant to the Black life experience. And that's dealing with resistance and dealing with injustice. As I was going through this conscientious objection process, trying to secure a discharge to get out the military safely and peacefully, there were some things that happened that created some psychological, emotional, and behavioral disturbances. And let's keep it funky. Anytime that there is some type of injustice, some type of wrongdoing, moral contempt, what does it do? It affects you psychologically, emotionally, and behaviorally. And it can also interfere with your spiritual power and development. So there were some things that happened to me, y'all. And those things that happened to me was I decided to speak up about a problem. I decided to be the servant leader that I am, or that I strive to be in all spaces that I occupy. And I wanted to stand up and really express that a policy letter that my unit was using to command and make decisions were being enforced improperly and was being misinterpreted. And so I did the due diligence of going directly to those leaders, to those commanders, and presenting the case of misenforcement, misinterpretation, and how it was doing more harm to soldiers with variable context. When I brought those concerns up, first off in the room, it became very cold and distant. They looked at me as if I shouldn't be raising my voice. They looked at me as if that I had no grounds to expressing myself on matters that were rooted in command decisions, command plans, and command intent. And as I was in these spaces having these direct conversations with leaders, and I'm presenting the case with actual evidence of Army regulation, showing them that there's a conflict with what they're enforcing but what is actually etched in stone. There was so much resistance that came into that room. They didn't want to hear it. They became shut off. They became so entrenched in their reactionary beliefs and attitudes that they were unwilling, that's the word. They were unwilling to see it from a different point of view. And even though some things were said in that room that created the hope and the optimism that we could somewhat synchronize our perspectives, come to an agreement, establish some type of cooperation. What ended up happening was very perplexing. They obstructed my leave. I was supposed to take parental leave because I just had a child. Parental leave is codified in the National Defense Act, which is a U.S. law document, and it's also reinforced in Department of Defense and Army regulations. And so they obstructed my leave, saying that I couldn't take it. I couldn't take my leave. They also placed me under an erroneous investigation for 3 months. And what that does, my people, is that when you're under an investigation in the military, that prevents you from taking leave. There's an administrative action that takes place that keeps you from, exercising your privileges and rights within the military. And one of those things is leave. And so, mind you, I was trying to take parental leave because I just had a son. And I had a lot of days saved up for my transition leave. And so they were also obstructing that as well. Another thing about an investigation is that an investigation in military means that they are trying to figure out if there was some misconduct. I went into that room speaking of grievance, speaking about concerns and grievances. But they turned it around on my head and flashed the light on me and started investigating me as if I was a criminal, as if I have done something immoral and unethical. To my defense, I didn't do anything. It was all a tactic to subdue my voice. And it was a tactic to make me realize the power differential between me and them. And it was also a way for them to create distress and hardship prior to me getting out the military, when it's already distressing and it's already hard as it is. When that happened, y'all, that really sunk me into a very dark place. And it really made me forget who I am. It made me forget about my values and my morals. I didn't have the mental strength, the mental resilience to navigate through this resistance, to navigate through this chaos. I was depressed for 4 days. 4 days I laid in my bed and I cried and I ruminated on all the possible outcomes if they tried to do anything shady and skeptical that could prevent me from getting the honorable discharge that I have so deserved, and rewriting the narrative of my military career based off of a erroneous investigation rooted in nothing but ego. Yeah, 4 days of that. And in those 4 days, I sunk in so deep into this dark hole of despair, angst, and sorrow that I even started to think about life without me in this world. It had me thinking that that my existence meant nothing. All because of their egotistical, wicked, immoral, and unethical ways. And so as I'm in this dark place, y'all, it was very hard to process. It was very hard to process. And the turning point, my wife walked into the room. This room, I don't even think I ate. I may have drank some water. And on top of that, I actually had COVID at that time. So I'm battling COVID and I'm depressed. Acutely depressed. My wife walks in around the 4th day. And she's slightly frustrated because she's been doing everything. My Brazilian queen has been holding it down while I've been in this room crying and sulking and moping. And she gave me the space to do that. And I love her for that. But what's profound about her entering that room, it just wasn't her presence, it was what she said to me. That, man, y'all, it really touched my heart because it showed that we are more than just husband and wife, father and son, father and mother, I'm sorry, y'all. We are a union. We are a collective. We are one heart. We are one mind. And she said something to me. And she said, baby, do not let people externally to you take your power away from you. In that moment when she said that, it did not resonate what she was trying to say. It didn't. I'm gonna be very honest. I wanted to continue to cry. I wanted to continue to ruminate. I wanted to continue to sulk. But about, a few hours later, when the tears started to dry and I kind of was able to think a little bit more clear, the spiraling thoughts began to subside, and catastrophic thinking began to dissipate. I thought about that. I thought about what she said over and over again, and I eventually realized that this state of powerlessness, where you're being ultra critical about yourself, shame is creeping in and making you feel insignificant. All of that is rooted into not facing resistance head on and placing too much weight into the external forces of this world. As an African man who is a husband and who is a father, it is my duty to be secure in my identity in all situations. Because I have to teach my kids to be secure as African princes and an African princess. And a lot of the social context of American society is not built for us. It's not built for us to be our true selves. And when there is resistance, when there is slander, when there is assassination of character, what do you do? And that is what I realized what was important out of this situation. This seed of adversity is teaching me something. And it taught me that the power from within, your internal resources, your skills, your abilities, your strengths, the things that make you unique and special, make you resourceful, make you ambitious, make you aspirational, makes you goal-oriented, makes you extremely technical, makes you extremely artistic, etc. Those are the things that you got to lean into no matter what. Because it's very easy to allow the judgments and the stressors and the criticisms from external forces to consume you, to have you thinking that you're not deserving, that you're not worthy. It creates these self-defeating beliefs that just eat away at your essence. It messes with your physical health. It messes with your mental healthiness. It messes with how you show up in your relationships, interpersonal, familial, social, etc. It breaks you down. But leaning into that power, owning that power in the most problematic situations is what can help you get out that dark hole. And that's exactly what I did. I thought about the resources that I had available. the strengths that I possess that could help me, that could propel me forward and keep me moving forward. The actions that I could take in order to stand up against this wrongdoing and this moral contempt, while reconnecting myself to my spiritual higher purpose, to my ancestry who came before me and fought many battles of injustice and discrimination, and who were triumphant, who were victorious. Leaning into that, and then leaning into the heritage of activists, advocates, liberation leaders, revolutionary leaders. They all were fighting against the immoral practices of this society that is anti-black, anti-African. It wants us to conform to Eurocentric principles, beliefs, philosophies. And so I started to reformulate, I should say, I started to construct an action plan based off of my internal resources. I end up finding a pro bono lawyer, civil litigator, talked legal action plan, got one of the nonprofits that I did some work for in peace advocacy, and they foot the bill actually for that lawyer. It was pro bono, but it was a lower rate than what he normally charges. And he's very knowledgeable about soldiers who are resistors to war, like myself. And so that's why I chose him. We defined our legal action plan. I started looking at the congressional inquiry process. I love to write. I feel that writing is one of the most quintessential mediums in expression, in communication, and in language. And so I looked up that process, reached out to that military and veterans, the veteran military caseworker, wrote that up. I looked up another process to hold these commanders accountable through the Department of Defense, which is called a request for redress in pursuit into a Article 138, which goes on their permanent record if it escalates to an Article 138. Learned about that process, wrote the request for redress, outlining the wrongdoing, outlining the retaliation, the retaliatory behaviors, the obstruction of the leave, the erroneous investigation, rooted in from based off of nothing. I'm so sorry. And detailed all of that and how what they were doing was in conflict with Army regulation and good order and discipline. Wrote all that up. I leaned into my power, y'all. I believed in myself. I believed that my ancestry was going to guide my footsteps, that it was going to provide me with the spiritual force, the creativity, in order to move past this complex situation. And guess what happened? A few months later, once the congressional inquiry actually went to the unit, once the request for redress was sent to, after I finished it and sent to the commander who did the wrongdoing, I got a call saying, hey, when do you want to take leave? Now, they never admit to me that what they did was wrong and apologize and nothing, but what came about that was the fact that they realized that they no longer had power over me in this situation, and that I was willing to use every available resource to shine a light, a fluorescent light over their practices, their doings, and how they are operating as far as from a malpractice perspective. And once they realized that what they were doing, they were entangling themselves with someone that was willing to fight, that was willing to defend themselves, and was willing to go all out in order to maintain their reputation of high character, they backed off. And from that experience, I was able to walk out unscathed. I was able to walk out with an honorable discharge, and I was able to walk out with a new outlook and new insight on matters where you become victimized because of your strengths and characteristics and attributes that reflects a resilient, intellectual, steadfast African and or black person, if that's just how you identify. So thank you, life lesson. Thank you, seed of adversity. And thank you, my wife, for telling me, for providing me that nugget of wisdom for me to propel forward. So I'm so happy again to be back on here. I hope you glean from this something that's worthwhile and something important that you can use in your day-to-day, or you can pass it along to someone else that you care about. In the notes, I'm going to put all my information again: IG, email, website, and also where to get my poetry book, The Depths Below. If you love poetry, if you're an enthusiast, or if you're just curious, I think this is for you. If you're someone that tries to make life situations make sense, or at least make it a little bit more clear for your own means of discernment and decision making, this is for you. If you have went through an identity crisis, and if you went through that reconstruction process of taking out things that don't serve you and filling you with the fruits of being authentic and being unapologetic, being rooted in spirituality, morality, by understanding your heritage, your history, your culture, this is for you. So please go get the book and connect with me on IG and look at my website. There's so much information there, and it doesn't cost you anything. But most importantly, subscribe to this podcast. We're back at it again. 4 months hiatus for good reasons, and now we're back. So please subscribe to this. Just give me a review. I need to know. I would love feedback. Feedback informs future practices. And I'm not going to know the route to go, what to do, how to do it if I don't know what the people want. There's an old African proverb that says, keep the people. And this is what this is about. It's about the people's interest, about the people's will. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I know that there's a need in my black community amongst black family members, individuals, couples, children who need this. And the last thing that I want to provide all of you is the quote of the day. We did it before. If you're new, we always do a quote of the day. And this is something to sit with you, something to remind you of the parallels between the quote, life experiences, life stressors and endeavors, etc. And it's also just something good to keep in your spirit, keep in your toolbox. And so the quote is, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Late great Martin Luther King Jr. Y'all marinate on that. So this has been a hell of a session. Can't wait to have many, many more. Let's continue to build. Let's continue to connect and communicate in a hearty, healthy way. And let's continue to be our most emotional, vulnerable, and perfect selves together. Ashe? Peace and love, everybody.